¿Qué pasó, mi gente? MarkTep25. Sorry, I gotta fix the angle there. Well, I was up early this morning. My wife had to go to work, and we were kind of looking at some tax information before she had to go. But yeah, I couldn't go back to sleep and decided to look at what's going on the Twitter world. And yeah, the Anthony Davis saga continues. In a sense, I mean, it's kind of really at a standstill, and it's looking like Anthony Davis might stay for the remainder of the season in New Orleans. Um, Mainly due to the fact that the trade talks have gotten utterly ridiculous. Because when I did the last video on Anthony Davis, it started out with mainly Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And now the trade talks have evolved substantially. They've now added Rajon Rondo, Zubats, Michael Beasley, I think. And I think there was one more player in that. And then 2 draft picks, like in the future, probably, I think distant future even. And that's just getting utterly out of hand. And whether the New Orleans Pelicans are doing this because they want everything they can get for Anthony Davis, or if they're doing this on purpose, either way, it's ridiculous. And if you're the Lakers, should you go for this? And in my opinion, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Because as of this point, all of that is not worth one player. And y'all can disagree with me if you want, but it isn't. It's a team sport. When people trade all these assets for one player, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense because you sacrifice an entire team for one player. That makes no sense, and it doesn't matter if he's a generational player. I understand he's 25 and, he's trying to at least spend his prime on a contender. I get that. He doesn't want to end up like KG. He doesn't want to end up like LeBron in his earlier part of his career. But at the same time, we cannot sit here and say that this is worth it, because it's not. On the side for the Pelicans, if they are asking for this because they want everything they can get out of Anthony Davis, that's kind of crappy. And it's just ludicrous. But if they're doing this on purpose so that they can weigh their options in the offseason, then I guess it's a good power play on their part. And they're not going to let Rich Paul strong-arm them into giving up one of his clients to pair with another one of his clients. Because in a way, that seems like conflict of interest. Whether it's tampering or conflict of interest, you all can tell me what you think in the comments on that part. But then another weird aspect of this whole thing is Danny Ainge from the Celtics. And you can state whether this is tampering or not, because he was kind of speaking, I'm not sure if it was to specifically the media or specifically the Pelicans, but he was like, oh, New Orleans should wait until the offseason, weigh all their options, see what's there. Like, isn't that tampering because that could damage the Lakers' chances of getting AD? I don't know. That seems to be the definition of tampering, but y'all can let me know what you think on that. But again, like I stated in my last video, you shouldn't be giving up this much for a player. You shouldn't. Because then that leaves Anthony Davis in pretty much a similar situation. Granted, it will be a little bit different because you have LeBron James, but you lack depth, and that's the whole issue with LeBron James teams, that he has no depth. It's all superstars with no depth, or he has no superstars and the players are mediocre at best. And you know, LeBron can only carry a team so much. But then he's the one, and you know, you all are going to give me shit for this. You know, everybody calls LeBron Le GM, right? Because he keeps asking for these players. And, you know, he gets them, obviously, right? He gets them. And they don't perform up to par. They don't give him the best chance at winning the championship. You know, he's the one that asks for these players. Like Kyle Korver. And, you know, there were quite a few other players. Like, I think he asked for J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert when they traded him from New York to Cleveland. And, you know, the first go-around when they won the championship in Cleveland, you know, they were good pieces. So it was a legitimate chance. And, you know, then they got Andrew Bogut and Deron Williams from the Mavericks. Bogut, like, got injured quickly, so that didn't help the Cavaliers in that point. And, you know, Cleveland was doing everything in its power at that point to appease LeBron. But when it came to, like, the whole Kyrie situation, letting him walk, yeah, you could say, oh, well, then that's Cleveland's fault, I guess. But at the same time, LeBron, for that entire span of time, was not making a commitment. And obviously, Kyrie saw the writing on the wall. You know, why the heck should he stay if the captain of that team is not making a commitment to stay with that team either? So Kyrie did what was best for him. And you know, I did this whole video on loyalty. The players and the organizations have no loyalty for each other. The organizations have not enough loyalty to put a good contender around a star player for all this time. Whether it be because they're a small market or what, I don't know. But also the players just don't have any loyalty. You could claim, oh, well, AD doesn't know the organization anything. He played for 7 years. Okay, but he's still in a contract year. He's still under contract. So he at least owes that much to finish out his contract. You know, you finish what you start. So that's not spelling as much about loyalty to me. And then, of course, like the whole situation with LeBron in Cleveland. And the second time around, I think LeBron had Cleveland in a vice. And at that point, Cleveland had no choice but to move on from it. Because they have to look after their future too. That's what New Orleans is pretty much doing right now. Like, they might be asking for that much because they're looking after what's best for them in the future too. I mean, they're giving up their superstar, you know, for a possible rebuild. It's a lot to take in. I think they're asking too much, but they also have to look at what's best for them too. They have to weigh their options because this is a lot to lose. They have a lot to lose right now. But be that as it may, and then again with the Celtics, you know, people are saying like if AD gets traded to the Celtics, AD will only be there as a rental and whatever the case may be because he stated it was leaked that he wanted to be with LA. So there's that. But who's to say that Danny Ainge doesn't have something up his sleeve? Danny Ainge has assets out the wazoo. And you know, he's not afraid to exercise them. And heck, what if he finds a way to get AD while still keeping a good amount of the core team intact, not giving up much at all? I mean, if the Lakers don't get Davis by the trade deadline, I think the Celtics have a lot more to gain from this. And you know, who's to say that Danny Ainge doesn't find a way to make this work and then AD stays with the Celtics? I mean, we look at Paul George. Paul George, everyone thought he was going to be a Laker, and he ended up staying with OKC. And again, as I said in the last video, we don't know this whole situation with Kawhi Leonard yet. This is, Toronto went all in in a respect on Kawhi Leonard, and whether he decides to stay with the team or not is up for debate. And the Toronto Raptors are doing well enough to where they could be title contenders. And that could be enough for Kawhi Leonard to stay. I mean, depending on what happens in the end of the season, like if the Raptors at least make it to the finals, will Kawhi Leonard stay? Would just making it there be enough, or would they have to win it in order for him to stay? That's the thing on that end. But the thing that kind of works against the Celtics, and I'm not sure if it was a Funky Diabetic or Andy Hoops. It was one of them that did a video on the Celtics, so like things working against them because of the whole Isaiah Thomas thing. That's another thing I should have mentioned in my loyalty video, Isaiah Thomas, because, in a sense, yeah, the Celtics kind of did do him dirty by letting him go. He did everything in his power to lead that team to the conference championship. He lost his sister. So many things were kind of working against him, and to get to that point only to be traded kind of sucks. But at the same time, you have to look at it on the fact that, I mean, it's a business thing. Like, would you have paid that much for a guy that was injured in that way? I mean, and it was quite obvious that the Celtics made the right move, because when Isaiah Thomas got to Cleveland, he wasn't as good as he was supposed to be. I think he may have rushed his recovery. I really think so. I think he rushed his recovery. And you could say what you want about the Celtics organization. I mean, Anthony Davis's dad was saying that he doesn't trust that organization, that they have no respect or loyalty for their players. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could view it in that light. You could view it as Danny Ainge just seeing all these players as assets rather than people. But at the end of the day, isn't that what every organization does? So we can't really fault Danny Ainge for that. Would I like players to be seen more as people than assets? Every person at their job wants to be seen as a person, but we're all expendable in our own walk of life. I mean, that may be a little bit too broad of a thing right now that I'm explaining, but in all honesty, the Pelicans have a lot to lose or gain depending on how things go. If the Lakers pull the trigger on this, I think it's a mistake, because they're giving up way too much depth for one player. But it could also be a mistake if they don't at least get AD right now, because then that leaves an opening for the Celtics to get him. But again, AD could be just a rental for that time being. And whether that works out for the Lakers, like in the Lakers' favor or not, the common denominator is AD. And it's looking like that he might stay in New Orleans for the time being, because I think the Lakers are starting to get turned off by the whole thing. And if he stays in New Orleans, he might decide to take himself out for the rest of the season and recover. I mean, I don't know how serious AD's injury is, and if it is serious, then, I hope he gets a speedy recovery and he recovers well. And if not, then I just don't think that helps his case, and people will be like, so he's pulling a Kawhi Leonard, and I don't know, like, players have to look after themselves, organizations have to look after themselves. And at this point, it's chaotic. As I stated before in my other video, there's no loyalty. The organizations have to look after what's best for them. The players have to look after what's best for them. But as of right now, the fact remains, I keep saying KD. AD is under contract still. So New Orleans does not owe anybody anything. Not even AD at this point. Yeah, AD may have played 7 years for them, but that doesn't mean they should trade him off of a whim, especially to a team that has LeBron James. You know, LeBron James shouldn't be getting everything he wants all the time. But that's up for you to decide. I might catch heat for that one, for what I just said, but that's just my deal. Anyhow, let me know what you think in the comments. And please subscribe to my channel. And definitely watch some of my other stuff. But anyhow, hasta la próxima, mi gente. Bye-bye.